Hello. I would like to welcome you again on the fest. I can say that each year the fest Ukraine becomes bigger and bigger, more interesting and more interesting. So I'm really glad to be able to participate and to have a talk. So yesterday I had a talk about microservices and using Go in a Google Cloud Engine or Google App Engine. This time I will talk about Angular2. I think the client side and server side is really connected. So if you want to develop a high quality application that was mentioned yesterday by David Ostrovsky, then you need to think both about architectures of backend stuff and also for front-end stuff. So this time I'm going to talk about Angular2, the next generation of the great platform, great framework or library that was brought by Google. And a couple of words about myself. I'm working as a system architect in a Twinfield, Wolters Kluwer Corporation. And I'm working on develop a cloud application that run on our private data centers and in the public clouds. But also I'm responsible for creating the front-end architecture. And this summer I got a Google Developer Expert status for cloud and web technologies. So in case if anyone would like to talk, I'm glad to give answers to any questions about these things. So, what is about Angular? When Angular first was published, it was called like Superheroic JavaScript MVW framework. Anyone knows what W stands for? Whatever. Yeah, so it's not a MVC, MVVM, or MVP. It's you can apply to any architecture that brings a separation between model and view. Later, we'll come back a little bit about the separation. But here, even more important word is a framework. As you can see, Angular.js, the first version of Angular, was a framework. The second version of Angular, it's appeared in 2009, and it was the first thing when it was developed in Angular. It was developed in a JavaScript. So when guys started doing about what going to be the next, they first developed the Angular Dart version. So it was not a port of Angular.js to the Dart language. It could be a very easy to make this port conversion, but team, Angular.js team, decided to write it from scratch. And during the development, the Dart version of Angular, they found that it's really nice to have all the features, to use the features like classes, like interfaces, like runtime meta information on the classes. So this was not available in JavaScript, and that is why they thought about how they can use all these features in a JavaScript. So the first attempt was to use a tracer, so you can write in ECMAScript 6 format with usage of a lot of features like classes, like inheritance and other, and they use a tracer for that. There was even on the conference they announced that they're going to develop in the new language. The language was 8 script. That means that it is ECMAScript 6, but with the attributes on that. Attributes is some meta information that you can put on a class and use it, for example, for dependency injection. So, after using add script, so also they created, added a type definition type So you can mark some parameters of the function that you get with some type. How it could be used in Angular? Why it's Angular? It's very important because you can use it for a dependency injection. If any one of you develop in Angular, they know that, for example, if you're creating the controller, you need to define all services that would be injected in this controller. If you can do it by just specifying which type of the parameter, you can use this information during the dependency injection to find the correct instance of the element. So why it was a TypeScript? Many people thinking that Angular and Google guys just betrayed everyone and goes to the Microsoft TypeScript language. But it's not completely true. Actually, the decision of using TypeScript was done before or just after Microsoft announced that TypeScript would be fully ECMAScript 6 compatible. So now TypeScript, it's so in the core it's ECMAScript 5, so normal JavaScript that could be used on any browser. Then there is extension for ECMAScript 5 with classes and other nice things that's part of ECMAScript 6. Then they added the types hints on the parameters, on the class instances, and so on. And above all of them, they added annotations. That's these attributes that create some meta information on the classes. So all of this could be done. It could be compiled by TypeScript in a good old ECMAScript 5. So decision of writing in TypeScript was not a decision to write in a language TypeScript. It was a decision to write in an ECMAScript 6 format plus types plus annotation. And then TypeScript just can compile it into ECMAScript 5 format. So in a case, if, for example, you don't like a TypeScript by some religious reason, you can use a Babel to compile the same code to JavaScript, and it will be not big issue. In the TypeScript, it was created a long time ago, and there is a big community behind that. So that was the reason of using TypeScript. So what good in a TypeScript? The first that if you, for example, don't want to use a TypeScript and you want to write the application in a pure old JavaScript, you can also use the Angular2 by a very simple thing that, so you, instead of constructor of the class, you define some function. As you know, in a JavaScript, all classes are actually the functions. Then you add in a same time as you do normal, you add the method to this class by adding it to prototype. Then you can call ng.components function that actually can accept the same functions that you created before. So Angular2 actually, it's not a TypeScript or ECMAScript 6 specific language. It's actually, or platform. It's actually just a set of helper function that could be used in ECMAScript 5. And this example, actually, it's working example. If you copy paste into Plancker and include Angular2 app, it will create the Angular app using second version of Angular. As you can see, there is no any TypeScript. There is no any ECMAScript 6. It's just pure JavaScript. So, but we can enhance it by instead of calling these functions one by one or after definition of a constructor function and method. Instead of this, you can use helper functions that are defined in AngularJS too. That's, as you can see, for example, this is a component where you can specify some selection with. That returns an object that has a view function where you can define the template on it. And after that, you can, so it's a chain of invocations, as you can see. So it's one function calls another and another. That you can define the class with a set of properties, a constructor and properties. So this is also JavaScript 1.5, so ECMAScript 5 code. And this code, same as this one, could be run in Angular2 environment. But now, so this code and this code, absolutely same result, gives the same result. But this version of the code, where the chain of the invocation, could be easily now converted to the ECMAScript 6, whether, as you can see, I define the class here, some properties, and attach meta information to this class. This is ECMAScript 6 version of the same app that I defined previously. And now, so as you can see, there is no any types here, no any attributes, but this one could be easily converted to this one. So here I add meta information to this class. Here's the same code as previously, but using annotations. So the same function as I called here, I added in the top as an annotation to the class. So actually, this is already annotated JavaScript 6 code. To use it, you can use a System.js. System.js is a universal loader that support loading using libraries that defined as a require.js, as AMD. But also, if there is a model that defined in ECMAScript 6 format, model definition, that's possible just to import it from the app. So, what gives TypeScript? As the result of using TypeScript, there is a huge benefit in Angular2. The first, there is no controllers, so no need to define some abstract things like what is controller, who can say it? It's quite hard. Instead of that, any class could behave like a controller. There is no providers because any class can behave like providers. The same for services and factories. So all these elements were just mixed into the class definition. Now, I would like to talk about the template syntaxes. Many AngularJS developers that saw what the new syntax AngularJS 2, they said that it's really something strange and something horrible and it's very scary because all this, nobody get used that there is some square bracket, could be a square brackets on a in DOM elements, DOM attributes on that. So for many developers, this syntax is scary. But actually, there's a big reasoning behind that. The first is, if you can see on this example, there's some custom directive written in AngularJS 1. Can anyone tell what type of binding is for attribute A? Any guesses? So is it just value x passed to the attribute A? So in the case we have scope binding for this directive, what is passed to the property A of the scope? Is it value, string value x, or it is some object passed there, or it is maybe it's a function that could be called inside of these directives? So, anyone can guess? But you're reviewing this code. You should be able to understand what is passed to this attribute. In Angular 1, it's impossible. You should open the sources of this directive and understand and check, find the directive definition object, and find the way how scope is defined there. So it's really extremely hard. in Angular.js 2, there is actually, you need to know three formats of specifying the binding to the attributes. The first one, when the a equal to some literal, it's just simple string value that is passed to the attribute. So if you see that something like color equal to red, that means the string red is written to the attribute color. It's very intuitive, and everyone can read it. The second syntax is when using a square brackets. That means that attribute A of this element, of this directive, should be populated from the some object, the controller behind that, by the value of this property A, should be property binding, sorry, should be put into the attribute of this DOM element. So when it is a square bracket, it's a one-way binding from a JavaScript world to the DOM tree. And the third thing that you need to know is around brackets. It's expression. So that means that in a case if this directive want to call create event or notify other class about something that was happened, for example, click events or loaded event or anything other, they should call the function expression. And what is really extremely good with the syntax is that any developer can easily, just reviewing the way how you define the it's in a view, he can very easily understand what does that mean. Is it literal binding or value is passed to the attribute or expression? That's all. It's really extremely nice. You can easily read, you can understand, and you can write own directives. So there is no any problem with that. Just try to understand that this is not a complication of the format of the templated systems. This is actually simplification of it. So on the left part, you can see Angular1 code. Here you can see, for example, how Angular1 directives were absolutely eliminated. During the development of, if you compare the number of core directives defined in Angular1 in Angular2, you can see that mostly 80% of all directives were just dropped away. For example, instead of writing nghref, anyone knows what nghref is used for? No? So in Angular1, nghref used to, if you put, for example, just normal href directive and you put some binding inside of that, when user moves mouse on this link, it will see some sources of your binding, and sometimes a little bit ugly. With nghref, you can put this value directly to the real value to the DOM element. In Angular2, you just put this href into square brackets, and you're done. The same for src. This directive you use to, if you just put it on an image, browser will first make a request to a server to download your binding. In Angular2, you just put this attribute in a square brackets. You're done. The same for ngclick, ngdisabled, and all other directives, they are gone. Absolutely. There is no these directives in Angular2. But if you remember what we were talking about, the new format, you can easily read this code. What is put into, by the way, and the last example about ng-include. I saw so many times where developers were forgetting to put single quotations on a text what should be included. In Angular2, you just cannot make this mistake. If you need to put some value, you put in square brackets from or you can just remove the square brackets and you will get the literal value supplied to the ng include. So the first big change is about template, and I hope after my explanation you will really love the new way of defining these templates. So the second very important thing is change detection. You know, many people that start using Angular 1, they loved the way how two-way binding is working. It was just a magic. You put something in the brackets, and it been substituted to the view, to the HTML elements. In Angular 2, they made a very huge change for that. They made the one-way dependency of the components. So what does it mean? That these components are checked for changes only when something changes inside of this component. And if something changes in another component, there is no any change detection run. There is no dependency on it. So as you can see, if this is changed, then this change event populated only upwards, not the whole tree. That makes a huge performance boost. Actually, you can have, for example, ng repeat with several thousand elements filled by from some data. And in Angular 1, it would be a little bit sloppy on mobile browsers. For Angular 2, just because they track only changes, for example, in one line, and all other thousands of lines are not affected, there is no any data checks on that. So that's why, because they bring it at a couple of very important types of the object. The first is immutable object. When you know for sure that some object is populated only once during the application start, you can mark this object as immutable, and Angular will absolutely skip these objects from data checking. The second one is observable objects. If you know that some object can change after some user interaction or polling from a server side, you can observe, or you can mark this object observable. And that means that the dependency only on a binding, and only if binding value are changed, the object is populated. So there is an example of how you can define the observable object on some model, and you put it in the controller, and it just works. As you can see, if there is this objects are marked as observable, the first if there is any change on one of them, then it first populates to all, and then back whole state of the app back as marked as already make a dirty check on that. So what it gives to us, there is no scope apply in Angular 1 or Angular 2. So many mistakes are made when you are using some third-party libraries that are not AngularJS. You just forget to call apply method on the scope. In Angular 2, these types of mistakes are gone. Instead of that, they used as Zone.js for marking. Actually, what Zone.js do? If you have some code, it monkey patch such functions as set timeout, as event listeners, and so on, in the way that you can easily write a code that is bounded to some scope of the execution. Normally, if you just remove the using this zone from this part, if you call set timeout and pass some function in it, it will use a global window objects as a self as this. And so if you try to load this value from non-zone environment, you will not get the correct value and correct binding. With the Zone.js, it's much easier. And just because using the Zone.js, you don't need to use apply. Everything is tracked by zone execution scope. So, and the most last but not least, part of what is greatly improved in the Angular, it's rendering part. I already mentioned so that in MVVM 1, in Angular 1, they call it MV whatever, just because they have a separation between model and view. In Angular 2, they made even much bigger separation between rendering of view part and the model part. So they separated the renderer from the whole execution process of the app. What it gives, if you have a separate renderer, rendering is not coupled to the main core elements of Angular 2, like a dependency injection, like how directives are work, how there's injection and sending the messages between controllers. You separate from the rendering, where the template binding is done, where the compilation of the element. You can give nice things. The first is that you can use a server-side rendering. If the rendering is not bundled to the some browser implementation, you can do some pre-rendering of the templates on a server side, and you get nice things like a search engine optimization and other parts. The second and very important thing, that if rendering part is separated from Angular logic, you can build really native apps. By native apps, I mean really native. That's not, I'm not talking about PhoneGap or other hybrid apps. There is already a nice code and some examples where you can use a native script as a renderer and Angular and do all rest things. And the third nice thing when you get by separation it from rendering part from the all other, that's the main part, main behavior that you write in the JavaScript can be run as in separate thread in the service worker. That means that the thread that is responsible for rendering can be do only rendering. So you have a very smooth interface. Everything works as expected as user. There is no any delays or click, and all window is closed. You can delegate this part into service worker. So this separation is actually even much better than not only things that I mentioned before. This separation brings a way how developers can organize their work. So the guys who are really good in writing some JavaScript code, some business logic, they can focus on the business, on this part. And the guys who are good in writing the nice visual stuff, visual directives, can focus on that. So this separation also brings more clarity in that. And the last thing, it's routing. Routing actually it's the way how Angular team propose people to migrate from the Angular 1 to Angular 2. The new routing that defined in Angular 2 supports both components defined in Angular 1 format, but also in Angular 2. So idea, the first step, if you're migrating from Angular 1 to Angular 2, the first step, you change router that you're using in your current app. It is a standard ng route or UI route to the new routing, and then introduce new Angular 2 components on that. It's quite easy. And what is extremely nice in Angular 2, that you can you can just start using it right now. You don't need to wait until it will be public release for that, and you don't need it to do to compile Angular 2 code by yourself. It's available even in Planker, so you can open the Planker, choose a format of that you want to use Angular 2, and you can see that's ECMAScript 6 already. So there is a define the class on it and define the all properties for that. Just to make no. I can change it for hello dev fast, and you can see it's working. So it's really great that anyone from you who would like to play it with the ECMAScript 6, with the type definitions, with the attributes, and with the AngularJS 2, you can already do it just right now. So that's it, I assume. Anyone have any question about Angular 2? Just raise the hand and you'll pass.
Questions, right? Okay. So is Angular 2 ready for production? Can we use for production projects?
As it still has a status beta, of course, that means that you should wait a little bit until it would be a public announcement. But you can already start developing right now, and you can be ready for this. So what you can now use in the production, you can now switch to using, for example, TypeScript, and use a TypeScript with the Angular 1. So you define your controllers, Angular 1 controllers, as the classes. You define all properties, and there is even a small trick that you can use attributes with Angular 1. I can show you a little bit later with this code. And then when Angular 2 will be released, you can easily convert your code written for Angular 1 in a TypeScript to the Angular 2. That's the way how you can use it right now in the production.
Okay. Any other questions?
As we know, in Angular 1, there is some speed limits because of, for example, if we are using more than 2,000 of vouchers, there's some speed limits and we need to check another technology or another framework. Is there some speed limits in Angular 2?
Yeah, in the first, there was a problem with that, but why was? Because now it introduced one-time binding. So in case if these 1,000 elements are not changed quite a lot, you can use it even in the Angular 1. But with the Angular 2, just because you, the way how binding is done, you can use, you can have hundreds of thousands records, and it will be no any speed benefit or speed problem with that. So Angular 2 completely solved this problem with the vouchers.
So you can write modules for Angular 2 in ECMAScript 6, right?
Yes.
So can you debug this original ECMAScript 6 sources in the browser?
Yes, all transcribers, including TypeScript, including Babel and Tracer, supports a source map, a generating of source maps that is the Chrome browser, and DevTools in the Chrome browser can use this source map that you can put a breakpoints on the elements. You can see original name of the classes, and you can add even watchers. I mean, you can put conditional breakpoints on the elements of the original ECMAScript 6 code. So yeah, Google already solved this problem.
I have kind of two questions. One is, can you like compare Angular and React? They seem to, like React seems to be very popular at the moment. So why is Angular better than React?
Sure, I can compare. These approaches, React and Angular have a little bit different approaches for how the UI is constructed. But there is no any fight between React and Angular. Even more, I can say that guys from React team spent a couple of weeks in offices of Google, and they worked together with Angular on a rendering. So Angular2 and React will use mostly the same type of the rendering. In Angular2 will be possible to use the technique for incremental or for a virtual DOM from React. But what is the difference? What is the difference, and why in some cases you should choose Angular for another React? For Angular is extremely good for building a complex application where you that you can use a dependency injection. You can use communication between services very easily, and it's supported by Angular by default. In React, so what's good in this case? If you have a lot of teams, a lot of people developing the same app, you can say, hey guys, you're working on this service, you're working on this, and you guys for a view part, or for a rendering part. In React, these things are mixed, and developers who developing some components, they should define the template of this component in the same place and as a JavaScript code that define behavior of this element. So Angular just brings much clearer separation between view parts, so designers can work separately from JavaScript developers. In React, these things are missed, and in the case if you want quickly have some POC and you're working alone or 5 people on developing the component, you can use easily React. But if your team grows and you have 20, 50 developers, it's much easier to use Angular. So that's, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thanks. My second question is kind of, when is Angular 2 going to be finished? Because it seems like the blog is kind of dead and several developers have moved on.
Yeah.
Like what's happening?
I can say that you can hardly find any conference where there is people are talking about Angular 2 that nobody asked this question. Everyone asked about the release date of the Angular 2. Currently, there is a beta, already a couple of beta versions of Angular, and there is no some specific date defined that. But I have a strong feeling that there will be a couple of conferences this spring, next spring. And currently, I know for sure, because I'm writing some Angular 2 applications, that last couple of last months there were no big changes, breaking changes in the API and the syntax. So I feel by myself that there is a kind of a stabilization period of doing right now, and approximately in the spring I get a gut feeling about that it will be released.
Okay, it seems like there haven't really been any changes in the last couple of months, but maybe it is moving.
So
they're just hiding it from you. Okay, probably if it's really short question, maybe yes.
Hi. What about Shadow DOM? Does Angular 2 uses it?
Yes, Angular 2 really utilizes all benefits of Shadow DOM. I mean, when you define the components in Angular 2, it's already using a Shadow DOM for bounding templates of these components and styling and so on. So yeah, Angular 2 already future-proof for such things as Shadow DOM, as promises. They use promises from so you use the promises that it could be natively implemented in a browser and so on. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Valentyn.
Thank you guys for watching and listening.